If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. And already a particular individual is calling in. But we're going to continue with the intro, because that's after all what you pay me for. You pay me good hard-earned dollars to give this intro and to listen to the intro music, and you're going to get every damn penny's worth. You got to belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat. It's great to see you back. Fluffy is going to be your bartender tonight. He pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, to your right, indicating that you can listen at shrmedia.com. That's where the chat room is located as well. I don't respond to any of the other chat rooms. I'm just human. I can only respond to a certain number of things at once. I can't be in Facebook chat, I can't be in YouTube chat, and the SHR Media chat all at once. It just can't happen. BZ doesn't have the ability. But anyway, I pointed to the lava lamp because you can watch the show on the SHR Media Facebook live page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. And I want to tell you that we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation, politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all. Here at the saloon, nothing is sacred, the speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress. Now, tonight we're going to be talking to the ever-ebullient and stellar Dan Butcher. However, before we start the show, this just came across Twitter, and it's unique enough that with luck... Okay, I'm going to have to back this up a little bit, because when I saw this harkened back to... God, when was that? I think the mid-90s, maybe 95, 96, right around in there. This is a pursuit. Now, this isn't a regular pursuit, and with luck, you won't be able to see it because it's on my little phone right here. But with luck, you'll be able to hear what makes this kind of a unique police pursuit. And if I hold it up appropriately to the microphone with luck, you'll be able to hear it too. A very unique police pursuit.
We're talking about a stolen armored personnel carrier that was taken from Fort Pickett. That is in Blackstone, Virginia, about an hour outside of Richmond. And this is the video that we found on Twitter, courtesy Park Sleigh Boss, seeing this armored personnel carrier just driving down the street. State police following behind. We understand from Richmond stations that this person did finally surrender to authorities. We understand a soldier stole this vehicle, again, from Fort Pickett in Blackstone, Virginia.
I want to tell you, if you go to Twitter and you find that thing, you're going to discover that it's actually what they call an M577, which is a command and control vehicle. It's not like the late World War II and mostly Vietnam APC, which was the Armored Personnel Carrier. But it's just funny as hell to watch. And I want to tell you, as you're watching this video, if you go to Twitter, it's probably on the mainstream stuff by about now. Just, Google like APC or Tank Pursuit or something like that, and you'll get it. You would be surprised how damn fast this thing is. It's zipping right past the various camera people, and it's on tracks, and it's fast as hell. Okay, enough with police pursuits. Let's go to Dan Butcher, who hasn't been on for quite a while, and I hope you are on now, Dan. And please tell me you're on and you can hear me, because that means we have our phone system fixed. God, oh please God, is Dan there?
Well, BZ, I am here, but man, I can barely hear you. You're breaking up pretty bad. Can you hear me coming through?
I hear you coming through just fine now.
Oh, I can hear you great now that I'm unmuted, so I think we're good.
Okay. All right. I don't know if you happen to catch the Tank Pursuit, but I played it.
I did.
Things like that they knock me out. And I made reference to the original Tank Pursuit that was, I think it was in Southern California, like San Diego or something like that, back in the 90s. And, I wouldn't want to hurt anybody, but when I have to ask all across the fruited plain, when you guys saw I guess it was a soldier, because otherwise how would you be able to run the damn tank? I think it was an M47. And when you get in the tank, wouldn't you love to be able to get into a tank and do what that guy did? I mean, he caused hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage. Luckily, nobody was injured, but and he eventually, I think he stalled out. He high-centered the thing on the freeway so it couldn't go anymore. And they opened up the top of the turret. Now, why the dude didn't lock the turret from the inside or the hatch from the inside, that's really stupid. But, the cops opened up the hatch at the top and went bang, bangity, bangity, bang, and one dead soldier later, that was the end of the Tank Pursuit. But I always thought, my God, how fun that would be to run right through a motorhome. And I thought, God, what?
It kind of goes back to the days,
God, what fun!
I think everybody at one time wanted to drive a monster truck, go to the monster truck races, and everybody wanted to drive Bigfoot or anything like that,
No kidding.
But you wanted to do it down the street. You didn't want to do it. You wanted to go crashing through everything.
Well, and you sure as hell didn't want to do it in your own neighborhood because, that would piss off a lot of people.
Exactly.
The other thing that I have to tell you that I just discovered the other day is on the order of this. I don't know if there are any in California. Perhaps some of the people in chat will be able to tell me. And with regard to chat, hey, welcome to Simone. She was there early. Welcome to Mike. Hey, Dan, good to see that you're in chat. There's Whiskey Dale. There's, hey, Jeff Dunnitz is in there. Mary Brockman, Traveling Cynic. And great to see you all. Thank you one and all for being here tonight. But there's also, this is great. It's called something like Adult Play Toys. And it's a franchise where you purchase a bunch of ground-moving equipment like massive backhoes and scrapers and D7 and D9 Caterpillars. And they teach you how to operate these things. You just move a lot of dirt around. I always thought that'd be an assload of fun, too. But that's just me. It's weird. Anyway, Dan says, I got hung up on. I will call back in. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. We've been having trouble with our phone system. I talked to Sean, and he and I sat down earlier today to go through the phone system. Skype liked his phone system, but okay, Dan, maybe if you call in, that'll be great. Hey, there it is. Okay, we'll try that again. Do you hear anything,
Hello?
Dan? Do you hear anything, Dan?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Anyway, the phone system around here is still weird. Now, we're on a different number now. We're running through Magic Jack instead of Skype. Magic Jack, that's something that you'd get from, like, K-Tel. Anybody remember K-Tel promos? Oh, my God. Or the Ginsu knives. Listen, you could get 2 Ginsu knives and a Magic Jack for $19.95, and you too could be a radio personality and call in anywhere around the United Snakes of America. Okay, weird. Anyway, we have a lot of people in chat, so thanks everybody for being in chat tonight. Before I start, I'm going to play it tonight, and I'll probably end up playing it on Thursday, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to be able to hear this, Dan. And I want everybody in chat, everybody listening live, and Dan himself, of course, and all the people listening in podcast, this is a Jeff Foxworthy bit. And it's called Women Have Questions. And I want to ask you, at the conclusion of this, is this accurate? Is there any accuracy in this at all? I suggest there is. Listen.
Fact of life, women always have more questions than men have answers to. Great example of this. 6-7 months ago, I get a text one day. The text says, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. I walk into the kitchen where my wife is. I said, hey, I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, was he driving? I said, I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. Were Carol and the kids in the car with him? I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. Were the people in the other car hurt? I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. What hospital did they take him to? I don't know. I just got a text that said, please pray for Tom. He was in a bad wreck. She said, well, you don't know anything. What do you know? I know you need to pray for Tom. I just got a text, said he was in a bad wreck.
I first heard that, and I went crazy because, to me, that was so incredibly accurate. So I have to ask the people in chat now, did I offend everyone, or is that accurate? I, personally, happen to find that accurate. Dan, how about you? Any thoughts on Jeff Foxworthy?
My wife is sitting next to me. I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay, moving right along. Hey, let's talk some politics, Dan. What do you think?
That's a lot safer, man.
Yeah, it is. Let's get some of the older stuff and some of the more serious stuff out of the way first, if we can. One of the good things that I think happened recently, and I wanted to talk to you about it, and let me see if I can find that story, because I have it listed, but apparently I don't have it in the... here we go. Yes. This is a story that I'll wager that you have some pretty good input on, and that's this. A federal appeals court restored the Texas voter ID law. And this was, I think, on April 27th. And it's been a while since I talked to you, and I wanted to talk to you about this. But it indicated that a federal appeals court ruled on Friday, April 27th, that Texas's new version of its voter ID law can go into effect, rebuking a lower court judge for trying to block the law and delivering a very significant victory to voter integrity advocates. Now, how has this affected Texas at all? Has there been a big support of this, or how has Texas reacted to this appeals court ruling?
They've gone to the polls and voted. It's quite honestly, we had our midterm. We had our primary elections in March.
Right.
No problems. We just had our runoff elections here in May. No major problems. I mean, the voter ID law here in the state of Texas, as for the voters themselves, has been a non-issue. I mean, it really has. It's very easy to get any type of form of ID to prove who you are in the state of Texas.
Right.
If you actually want to prove who you are, they make it simple. They will even let you at the poll promise to provide it if you don't have it. So there's no reason that you cannot vote. Now, here's the interesting thing that has developed as far as the voting laws here in the state of Texas. We recently had a federal judge had ruled that Texas needed to allow online voter registration, which here in the state of Texas we currently do not have.
Okay.
And of course, you have different types of different things. They were also trying to possibly force us to allow voting online and stuff like that. And of course, that went to an appeals court, and the judge said, "Nah, Texas doesn't have to do that."
Good.
So far, everything that has been thrown, just a lot, basically the same thing with, we've also had a lot of issues with our redistricting maps from a few years ago. They're continuing to fight over those, even though we're fixing to have to redraw them in 2020. But every single time we go to court, it ends up in an appellate court, particularly when it goes, if it goes to the state.
Well, that appears to be the loveliness of Magic Jack doing its work again. So let me just suggest to Dan Butcher that you call once more. Now, why this thing is hanging up on you, I don't have the first clue. And I wish I could tell you that Skype was working, but initially we got Skype working, and then we got Magic Jack working. It's an entirely different number in this area code. So all I can say is, Dan Butcher, please call back in. I know it's a royal pain in the butt. However, that said, the original law passed. Now we're talking about Texas, its voting law, its ID law, having been upheld. The original law passed earlier this decade and had been blocked after the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals concluded both its purpose and effect was to punish minority voters. I don't have it queued up right now, but I've referred to it before. Someone went on the street in Berkeley, California, leftist central for all of the left coast, and asked young kids on the UC Berkeley campus, do you have an ID to vote? And all of them said, yeah, I've got an ID. And then the person that was inquiring said, well, is it oppressive? Is it difficult to go get an ID so that you can vote? And to a man and a woman, black, white, pink, purple, burnt umber, cerulean, it didn't matter. Every one of them said, no, it was very easy to go out and get a license or some form of ID to vote. So we have Dan Butcher back, and thank you for being back.
Well, what I did this time is I actually paid the cover charge. That was the issue.
Okay.
I was cheap and snuck into the bar, didn't pay the cover charge. And so they keep kicking me out. So maybe now I can stay in. Now, here's the funny part.
Is this like Magic Fingers?
Back on the number,
yeah.
And it tells me this number is no longer in service. So I'm thinking, damn, Sean Lewis, you cheap ass. You didn't pay the phone bill again. But evidently that's not the case.
Is this like
anyway,
Magic Fingers?
We're going to try this again. This is what happens, man.
God, this is like Magic Fingers in the hotel bed. You put in your quarter, and you know the magic fingers on the bed vibrate until you run out of quarters, and then the magic fingers go away. So, oh my God, I'm going to cross my fingers and hope everything goes well once again. And you laugh about paying bills. But that's as far as I'm going to go on that. In any event, we're talking about the Texas voter ID law, which was upheld. And then, I can't believe it. California, I'm sure, would do something like this. But Texas wanted to vote over the Internet? Is that correct?
No.
Okay,
no.
Good.
Texas is actually one of in a lot of states across the country, of course in Oregon, I think everything is now all mail-in ballots. But basically here in the state of Texas, the big issue was we do not do online voter registration. That's something that we do not do here in the state of Texas. And this particular judge was wanting to force the state of Texas to do online voter registration. And they even went further than that. They were also looking at trying to force the state of Texas to do absentee ballots via online instead of them being mailed in. And so, because a lot of states have gone to online voting and different things like that, and what have you. But here in the state of Texas, that is not the case, and so the appellate courts have upheld that right now. That all of Texas's basically the bottom line is right now. All of the voter laws in the state of Texas are perfectly legal. They're being upheld as constitutional by the appellate court.
Good.
All of our voter maps and everything, all of our districts, all of that has been upheld, and so it's here in the state of Texas. The state of Texas is a big thorn in the side of the progressive movement a lot of times, and a lot of the way that things happen here. But the Fifth Circuit Court, especially the Fifth Circuit Appellate Court,
right?
It's not necessarily a very conservative court. It's a moderate court, but it's a common sense court. There's a lot of common sense used there.
It's not the
versus the fiasco with the Ninth Circuit that you are used to dealing with in your neck of the woods. But so they use a little thing called common sense here. And so once again, as far as and everything has gone smoothly as far as the voter ID laws and different things like that. Have we had some reports of instances of fraud and stuff like that? You bet we have, but they've been caught. You've had a lot of people caught and prosecuted trying to vote 2 and 3 times and stuff like that. So that's been a good thing. Not a lot of it, not widespread voter fraud and stuff like that, but in the instances where they have been caught, they have been prosecuted and what have you. So actually, the voter ID laws, the voter laws of the state of Texas are working the way they were designed to do.
Yay!
And despite the efforts of everybody trying to destroy them and make them not work the way they're supposed to do.
Would you be surprised, Dan Butcher, I hope you're sitting down, would you be surprised if I were to say something similar to the California motor voter law, which has gone into effect? Basically, it's this. If you walk into your friendly neighborhood DMV, the purpose of that is to, as you walk in, to conduct whatever DMV business you wish to conduct on that particular day, from that appointment, etc. At the same time, DMV will sign you up and register you to vote in the state of California. Now, doesn't that sound like a wonderful idea? It's a convenient idea. There's no problem with that, except that there's a problem with that. What the DMV grudgingly has admitted is that somehow, air quotes, somehow 10,000 people now seem to be dual registered. And that's just a guess, and they can't say exactly how many, but by God, Dan and everyone listening, the state of California, they're on it. They are on it like the DMV itself is full of truthful, honest, hardworking, and efficient individuals who are working for an honest, diligent, and hardworking and efficient, mostly efficient system, the DMV in the state of California. So I feel very assured that that's just a one-time thing, and there was no purposefulness behind that whatsoever at all, because fundamentally it's just a damn good idea. Because stuff like that never leads to fraud. At all. No, come on. Right. What I'd like to do is transition over to a serious aspect now. And I wanted to talk to you earlier, but things got in the way. You were covering a lot of stuff last Tuesday, I think. You were covering some voting in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Or have we lost you again? This might be just a challenging show. This might be, this is a way to kill radio. So let's see if I can, that looks fine. Let's see if we can get Dan to call in again. I'm looking at Magic Jack. It says, look, hey, there's a 3-year plan, only $29.66 per year. Or you can substitute quarters for the magic fingers. Now, why this continues to hang up, I'll never know. I guess I could ask Dan to see if he could call in on Skype, but I'm not going to try that because things are not going all so well. Let's go over to chat and see if Dan happens to be in chat. And we're losing listeners already left and right. Mary Brockman, oh well, I got to go anyway. God bless everyone. Thank you. Good night, Mary. Thank you for being here in the first place. And a deal killer, one and all. Anyway, Dan, if you're there, let's see if you can call in. If you find that you can't call in, Dan, just let me know. Either send me a text or send me a message on in the chat room. And Whiskey Dale says, howdy, BC. How do you do? And Simone says, we're here. Howdy, BZ. Whiskey Dale, I should tell you that we were talking today, the co-owner of SHR, Sean Lewis, and I were talking about how we're going to change some of the cams here, the cameras, in the SHR Media studios. And we were asking ourselves, okay, what would we want to see if we were watching this show ourselves? And we decided perhaps we were going to put a camera higher up in the studio so that you could see a little bit of the person that's running the board and a little bit of the person that's across the room, like Clint when we're on Sackheads Against Tyranny. And we also decided that it might be interesting if we were to have like Bobcat Cam. That we would consider having an entire... okay, here's Dan. Dan just sent me this. I'm going to wait until after the break to call back in. Going to use my cell just in case the problem is on my end. Okay, all right. Well, that's good. We got 3 more minutes before the bottom of the hour break. And what I was going to ask Dan about is the Texas shooting that occurred back, I think, on May 19th. And there have been some updates on the Texas shooting. And Dan, being a journalist, would have some updates to that as well. One of the things I noticed that was covered by CNN, of all things, with regard to the Texas shooting, and it's kind of in the backyard of Dan, and being a journalist, he covers a lot of this stuff. There was a headline at CNN that said, alleged shooter at Texas high school spared people he liked, court document says. And then when Dan comes back, if we can get Dan back on the air, what I'd further like to discuss is this. Journalism is in a massive flux these days, and I think I'm being rather kind. And Dan is, in fact, a journalist. He is what I call a media magnate, M-A-G-N-A-T-E, not M-A-G-N-E-T, because he owns his own media company out of Amarillo, Texas, and he has access to all the news. He updates a blog. Let's see if we can do that. Dan, do we have you back?
Let's try this. Let's see how long we can stay on this time before the break.
Good God. Anyway, what I was telling everybody is when we come back, I'd like to talk about the Texas shooter because there's more information about the Texas shooter. And being a journalist and having covered that, I'd like to discuss that situation with you. And after we do that, what I'd like to do is discuss, I came across a whole bunch of articles about sort of the state of journalism these days. And you being a media magnate and an owner of a media company, essentially, you have your finger on the pulse of journalism. You have been an actual journalist for a number of years.
Way too long.
not just an owner, but a publisher of content. So it's you own your media, you edit your media, you publish your media, and you write your media. So you cover, you cover the waterfront. You cover everything. And when we come back after the break, what I'd like to do is start out with the Texas school shooting and chat about that just a little bit. We don't have to bury it into the ground or beat it to death, so to speak. Perhaps that's a bad turn of phrase. But I then want to transition over to the state of what's happening in journalism these days, because unfortunately, it would seem to me that altogether way too many of the American media maggots, which is my term for mainstream media or the leftists in journalism, they have their heads buried in the sand, just like leftists and Democrats all across the fruited plain. Folks, we're going to take a break. We've been talking to Dan Butcher, and he's going to come right back after this break. Please don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern. Only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny, and we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights. Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. You know, we talked about this for for the last 3 years, and finally coming to fruition.
You know, I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And you are listening to the SHR Media Network, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines right here live and direct in the SHR, the palatial and sumptuous SHR Media Studios, 2 miles from the veritable belly of the beast, the locus of evil. Oh, God, it kicked him off again. The veritable locus of evil. And apparently Dan hung up and had to call back once more. So I guess the question would be, Dan, do we actually have you back at this point?
Yes, you do. I have looked. It's actually cut me off exactly every 5 minutes.
Is that seriously? Is that what it's doing? Is it averaging about 5 minutes?
Literally, I called back in. And that little break segment that you have is right at 5 minutes, long, and right before it, as we get at the tail end of it, it cuts me off. So it's right about every 5 minutes, it's cutting off.
Oh God. Okay, now if you're watching, I'm on the phone and I'm sending a text to Sean and I'm saying. It's cutting him off every 5 minutes. And I sent a text to Sean that says, "This is killing me. Magic Jack has dropped Dan 3 times already. My fingers are crossed because we have no backup." And Sean said, I bet that's Dan. His phone sucks, honestly. Well, now you're calling in on your cell. And now it hangs up about every 5 minutes. So let's see.
Because I anticipated that Mr. Lewis would say something like that, and that's why I changed phones to prove him wrong.
Yeah, true. Okay, well, this will be interesting. Okay, so at about 35 after the hour, we started back up, so I'm going to wait until 40 just to check, honestly, to see if this thing hangs up and whether you have to call in every 5 damn minutes. And I just have to ask, is it because I'm not feeding quarters into this fucker on my end? That's all I want to know. When I come to the studio, am I going to have to bring a big ass bag of quarters and feed them into this cockbite to get the phone to work? That's all I want to know. If so,
every 5 minutes, by God, we're going to get through this show tonight. I don't care.
Good God. Okay, we can laugh about it. We can laugh about it now. All right, we're gonna have to get serious just for a second because I was telling everybody at that point that I found a CNN article that indicated that shooter at the Texas high school spared people that he liked, and that was an element of the story that I was not aware of. And apparently he had a shotgun and a revolver. And those are 2 things that are readily available. So first, let's start out with this. Is there any law in the United States or Texas or Illinois or California or New York which would have stopped this crime from occurring?
No.
Next
question.
Yeah.
No, and here's the reason why, and I make this up, and this, you and I we could do 2-3 shows over just this very topic because you're talking about, these particular guns he actually took from his father, and they were legally owned weapons.
Right.
And bottom line is that you can put all the gun laws in place that you want to. You can take all the guns away. Well, guess what? Then they're going to start stabbing people. You can take all the knives away. Then we're going to go back to blowing people up and mowing them down with cars. So let's try to eliminate all the bomb-making components. Let's eliminate driving vehicles. They'll start mowing down people on bicycles. Well, let's eliminate bicycles. And then we'll go back to throwing rocks and making and sharp sticks, bows and arrows and everything. You can eliminate everything you want, every weapon you can possibly think of, but you're not getting down to the core issues of this. There's so many dynamics that feed into not only the mentality that is causing a young person to walk into a school and shoot people. It's also a mentality that's taking place not only in our minority neighborhoods, but in all spectrums of society.
Yes.
This isn't a gun problem, ladies and gentlemen. This is a problem is society that we have to deal with. We have to understand, okay, what is causing somebody to snap to do this? Well, we can understand the right. If you want to compare a terrorism act to a school shooting by a young person, at least with a terrorist attack, you know the motivation behind it. You kind of have an understanding of their thinking, why they are carrying this out,
right.
What their purpose is, et cetera, et cetera. When it comes to somebody that snaps and they go and shoot up a workplace or they shoot up a school, it's a whole different dynamic. And you have to get down. There's so many things that play into this. Is it a mental health issue? Is it revenge? Crime of passion? There's so many different things that go into this, and that's what we have to get into. It's not just a gun issue. It's an issue in society that we have to look at, and we have to deal. And you have to look at obviously the political thing to do. Hey, you know what? Let's increase gun laws. Let's deal with let's make it harder to get them, et cetera, et cetera. That's the politically expedient and easy thing to do. The hard thing to do is to actually look deep in our souls as a society, look at the very root of society.
Okay, well, we lasted a little bit longer that time. We went, 5, 6, 7, almost 8 minutes before the quarters ran out. It's times like these that challenge a radio show and challenge everyone else. And, okay. Hi, Dan. Welcome back.
And as I continue, bottom line, BZ, is there a problem with guns being in the hands of people that do not need them? Yes, there is. Do we need to look at making sure we're enforcing laws on the book? You bet there is.
Yes.
Do we need to make sure people that have no business having guns in their hands don't have guns? You bet. Do we need to address the mental health issues, stuff like that? You bet. But that's common sense stuff that needs to be addressed. But that's just a small part of the equation, small part of the problem. You also have to look at mental health issues. You have to look at bullying in schools. You have to look at the family dynamic. What has happened in somebody's life that has caused them to snap and do something like this? What all is happening? And people, especially politicians, they don't want to get down and get dirty and get to the root of the problem with this. Because you know why, BZ? They're lazy. They're too damn lazy. They don't want to do the hard work.
No.
That somebody like me, as a reporter, wants to dig down and say, hey, there's more to this problem than just guns. There's more to this problem than just mental illness. There's more to this problem than just bullying. It all comes together, and what's causing all of it, and what do we do to address this? The same thing applies to the homeless situation. People say, well, you know what? We could just provide this and this, provide them housing. It's more than that. When you're dealing with homeless situation, you're talking about job training, educational needs, substance abuse, being clean and sober, job training, educational opportunities. It's more than just providing housing. It's giving people a solid foundation to step themselves up and build a life, not just to have a permanent home, but to have a permanent life situation. And people don't want to do the hard work. They don't want to talk about the hard facts, have the hard discussions, get down to the nitty-gritty. Because, you know what? It's, as much as I like to say it, it's not the politically correct thing to do, BZ.
No, it's not.
Actually solve the problem. We want to score bonus points so that we can stay in office. We want to score bonus points so we can keep those federal dollars coming, those state dollars coming to certain programs that don't work, are complete failures, and they draw money away from programs that could actually work. We don't want to talk about judicial reform. We don't want to talk about sentencing reform. We don't want to talk about educational reform. We don't want to talk about failing schools. We don't want to talk about failing neighborhoods. We don't want to talk about this. We don't want to talk about that. But what we do want to talk about is, because it makes the headlines, you and I get into this talking about the state of media, is that it does it, the hard work, the hardcore, the nitty-gritty, dirty stuff that has to be done to start addressing, just to even start addressing these problems, let alone solve them and work through them, doesn't grab the headlines. It doesn't look good. And so it doesn't look good. It doesn't make you, it quite honestly, it doesn't make you feel good. And so we got to get down to BZ where we light a fire under some people's asses, whether it's our community leaders, whether it's media folks, elected officials. We got to get down and get to work. Roll up the sleeves, get our hands dirty, and start talking about everything. And because if we don't, as society as a whole, it will continue to rot away at the foundation of everything this country was founded on, BZ.
Absolutely true. I don't have it in my hands. It's across the studio over there. But about 2 weeks ago, I read an article about a particular individual. I'm going to go get the article on the break, and I can't remember its author. But there was one hypercritical element that both you and I have left out up to this point, and he tapped on perfectly when I read it. It was a fairly long article, but essentially what he said was this, and you can't mention this either in polite or impolite society anymore, although the truth is right in front of our damn faces, and it's this: there aren't any fathers in the home anymore.
Bingo.
And the parents want to be friends instead of parents to their children. Yes. They want to abdicate actual raising of the children to the school or some other process, and that can't happen. That just can't happen. The fundamental question that I posed with regard to gun control and eventually gun confiscation, because mark my word, that's exactly what leftists, Democrats in the American media, maggots are after. They want the United States to be another prototypical Australia, although the crime rates are beginning to go, well, not beginning, they've been going up markedly in Australia for quite some time after they literally confiscated as many of the weapons as they possibly could in Australia in 1996. But there are no fathers in the home. We're trying to make little girls out of boys, and the boys that are not going along we're placing on drugs because the instructors, the teachers, I know they have a hell of a job, but they just as soon drug kids anymore, male, specifically young boys, or make little pussies out of them and get rid of that toxic masculinity. Well, it's toxic masculinity that's coming out when the little boys get so repressed for so long and or drugged and or told they need to be acting like little girls. And further, they have no one to which to pattern themselves after. And that's a massive, massive, massive hypercritical point. Plus, I just happened to discover this article from the Washington Times, which dovetails perfectly. And the Washington Times, I'm not sure that they knew exactly what they were writing at the time that they wrote this. I don't know exactly what bent they had, but here's how I interpret it. And when I go through the article, I'd like your comments or thoughts on this. The system isn't working. The system that we have in place, we don't need any more fucking gun laws. We just need to make the system that we have in place currently work. Now, you remember one of the shooters that I think was in Texas that shot up the church? One of the fundamental things we discovered is that the Air Force had not provided the database with the information indicating that the guy who shot up the church in Texas shouldn't have been able to purchase a gun. But the federal government, the Air Force, didn't provide the requisite information to the federal government, the database, when this guy went through, indicating that he should not have been able to purchase a gun because of his backgrounds and his crimes. That's a failure of the system. The Washington Times addresses this again. And I'm not sure that they know exactly what they're addressing, but I'll translate it for everyone. The headline says, banned gun buyers beat background checks and are rarely prosecuted when caught. Now, I'm sure most leftists would say something similar to, I told you we need more gun laws. So it goes like this. A convicted felon from Colorado lied about his criminal past when trying to buy guns at 2 upstate New York stores in 2016. Now, is anyone besides myself fucking gobsmacked that a convicted felon from Colorado would lie about his criminal past on what is called, I think it's the Form 4473, and it's the application to BATFE to purchase a firearm. The man failed the instant background checks and was denied the weapons. Law enforcement was notified because lying on a firearms application is a federal offense. It is a federal firearms document. And you sign, when I sign this, I'm telling you the truth. It's a federal offense. The man fled back to Colorado before the authorities caught up to him. So Francis Neely, a 30-year veteran of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, BATFE, took the case to federal prosecutors. Listen to this. Took the case to federal prosecutors in upstate New York seeking charges and an arrest warrant. The prosecutors declined the case, citing a DOJ policy to pursue only the most extreme instances in which someone lies on a federal firearms application. This is the federal government allowing these people to slip through the fingers, to slip through our fingers. And it's extremely frustrating. This is the process not being done. And my understanding is that Dan has fallen off the line again because he just sent me a text. Now it says it won't let me call back at all using either of my phones. Okay, well, I guess we've seen the end of Dan tonight, which is very sad because I wanted his input on this and journalism, etc. So I guess the rest of the show is just going to be old BZ. So Mr. Neely also hit a dead end with New York State prosecutors. They said the case was worthy of prosecution, but they didn't have funds to send investigators to Colorado and bring the man back to New York, Mr. Neely recalled. The man was never charged for lying on the gun application, and Mr. Neely said law enforcement doesn't even know why he made 2 attempts to purchase a gun. We at the ATF have limited resources. How much time are we going to invest in a case that isn't going to be prosecuted? You just pray that this guy doesn't walk into a place and kill someone with a firearm. He gets on the street. Well, guess what? These are crimes of process, of negligence. The ability exists, present and accounted for your federal government to protect you from these school shootings. So you don't need extra laws, is my point. All you need to do is perhaps redirect some funds from another area. And if you think that it warrants saving people, then you redirect people to find and prosecute the people who lie on these federal forms. And we've just had a number of excuses, not reasons, I'll call them excuses, from the feds with regard to, well, we can't do this and we can't do that. And then we have shootings, despite the fact that in many of these cases, these shooters are unbalanced. They come from homes that are upside down. They come from homes that have no parents or one parent in the family. And in some occasions, they have a two-parent family. And the parents aren't particularly aware of what's going on with their child, male child, because they just figure that to get into them, I'm guessing, is, I don't want to betray my child's privacy. For example, as if a child had the right to any privacy when he or she is under your roof, and the answer is no, they have no damned privacy at all. I know for a fact parents that used to work for me as I was a sergeant for the sheriff's department. I had some of my deputies tell me that what they would do when they had their kids act out is they would remove social media, they'd remove games, they would remove the cell phone, they would remove the iPads and the various tablets. And the other thing that they would do, and I loved this when I heard this, I thought this is one of the world's finest ideas. They took the door off the children's bedroom so the kids couldn't shut the door. And there was, in fact, no privacy. And the parents could walk in at any time. And that's how you find out what your kids happen to be doing. Well, I'm not going to go into journalism at this point. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I could talk about. So I'm going to have to reshuffle a few things. And I'm going to go back to... I should have planned for this, knowing what happened last week and what's occurring now. I should have foreseen this happening because that's just the way of the world. Luckily, once I set everything up, I have some things that I can do. This is an audio cut, and I don't quite have enough time to do this. Okay, well, let me tell you what I'm going to do. It's coming up to the top of the hour break. I have a couple more minutes before the break. When we come back after the break, Dan is gone, unfortunately. And let's see if I have another text from Dan, because I've got another light here. No, I think he's gone for the night. And I wish I could tell you exactly what the problem was. Because unfortunately or fortunately, I live and die by the telephone because I like people to call in. Oh, let me tell you this. This is interesting. This is coming up. I don't know if you happen to listen to the Hugh Hewitt Show. And Whiskey Dale, Traveling Cynic, I think you guys probably listen to the Hugh Hewitt Show continuously. And you guys have heard of Tarzana Joe. Well, Tarzana Joe and I have been talking, and he's doing some traveling right now. But when he comes back in about a week or so, he said that, hey, sure, I'll come on the saloon. Now, in a week or so, I better have my damn phones fixed, because I'm going to be talking to Tarzana Joe right here, live and direct, in the saloon. And for those not acquainted with Tarzana Joe, who actually lives in Tarzana, California, and his name is Joe. He writes poetry for everyone, for all circumstances, and he's usually on the Hugh Hewitt Show every Friday, where he regales Hugh with a poem. And you can commission Tarzana Joe to write your very own poem. He's great. It would be remiss of me not to say that you can go to tarzanajoe.com and commission him to write a poem for you for your anniversary, your wedding anniversary, for a birthday, for Christmas, for a special occasion, for a bar mitzvah, whatever it is. Tarzana Joe is your poet for all occasions. So in about a week or so, crossed phalanges, and the creeks don't rise and the phones are fixed, I'm going to have Tarzana Joe on the show. And with luck, if I'm nice to him, and I'd like to see him on like maybe once a week for 15, 20 minutes or so, just like he does on the Hugh Hewitt Show. So Joe, Tarzana Joe, himself, his very own self is coming up, folks. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back. It's 9 o'clock on the West Coast. It's midnight on the East Coast, and in Bolivia, it's 1975 and 19.728 subsector 2, paragraph 4, Bolivian time. Come right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny. And we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, a good, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of a poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Well, it's the second hour. And we've had our share of challenges tonight. I'm ever so happy to report, overjoyed, so to speak. For those of you hanging in, I thank you ever so kindly for doing so, despite our challenges these days. We're still working on the problems. I'm confused as to why they are still problems when it would seem that they're relatively simple to fix. However, you do have to be a tech god, and of course that's something that BZ is not. That having been said, there are still a lot of things to talk about. One of them is this cut from Eric Swalwell in a tete-a-tete with Tucker Carlson on Tucker Carlson tonight. Now, Eric Swalwell is a representative from the state of California, and you should need to know nothing further than that. And Eric Swalwell basically has said that Donald Trump is sending messages in public to Russia. Now, if I had a producer at this point, when I happen to say Russia, he's sending messages in the clear to Russia. Now, see, if I had a producer, it would have sounded like that. So I didn't, so that's why it didn't. Anyway, Eric Swalwell, a Democrat representative from California, insists that Donald Trump is sending messages in video by telling jokes. And he's sending these messages to Putin in Russia. I'm not making this up. That Donald Trump has to be what I would consider to be the obvious, the ultimate master of hiding in plain sight, if this is true, right?
Welcome back. We're still joined by Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell of California, a member of the House Intel Committee. If you've been watching cable news...
Tucker has this guy on because he's such a leftist and he's such a loon. Please listen to this. This is so illustrative of what passes for brilliance on the left today.
News for the past year. No doubt you have seen the congressman talking a lot about Russia. Here's part.
Russia attacked our democracy this past election. And then they showed up to his Trump Tower, offered the evidence to his family. They received it. They didn't turn it down. Donald Trump for years had been working with the Russians. He brought people on his campaign who had ties to the Russians. We have seen a candidate and a president who...
Okay, by that he means Carter Page and Papadopoulos. If I have time, and I won't be able to get to it tonight rather, but Papadopoulos and Carter Page, although they'll not admit it themselves, they were dupes. They were set up. But that's to whom Eric Swalwell is referring.
Who has spoken in very flattering ways about Vladimir Putin. All of the arrows continue to point.
Right, which is why he sent cruise missiles into Syria twice and killed Russians.
Point to a personal, political, and financial relationship that Donald Trump had with the Russians.
The congressman has come on tonight. We've given him a lot of time to present to us evidence, actual evidence.
Now listen carefully. This is Tucker Carlson, who has made the offer prior, and he said, I will give you a half hour of time on my show, Eric Swalwell, if you can give me direct and conclusive evidence with regard to Russian collusion and Trump being involved with the Russians in hacking the election, in creating the favorable results of Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, being elected president of the United States. Now, that was the challenge. Eric Swalwell accepted, and this is what passes for a cogent argument. Please listen.
Of collusion. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming back.
Yeah, of course, Tom.
So Trump said in the campaign, I want to bring us closer to Russia. A lot of people agree. I certainly agreed with that. A lot of people on his campaign.
Why? Why did you agree with that?
Because as a geopolitical matter, I think the enemy is China, and I think we have.
Can we have more than one enemy?
Sure, absolutely. But I just think I don't agree with their posture, aggressive. I don't agree with the Trump administration's posture toward Russia right now. Actually, it's too bellicose. Whatever. But that's a legitimate point. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't make you a traitor. But is there actual evidence?
Sitting down. Okay, this is on. Here's a very important point. Wanting to sit down and discuss anything now with a potential enemy, China or Russia, or apparently even North Korea. Now, wanting to sit down and discuss issues is now anathema to Democrats, when prior, under Obama, all the Democrats wanted everyone else to sit down at a nice even table and talk in calm, soothing tones over a nice cup of steaming tea and nice, quiet, placating tones. And now that's not what passes for leftist philosophy now. It has to be absolutely bellicose.
Where's the? I've followed this pretty carefully. Where's the actual evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Putin?
So, 2014, 15, 16, Russians hack into our DNC. They weaponize social media.
Okay, stop. He's lying by omission. What he forgot to tell you is that the Russians also tried to hack into the RNC servers as well. They did it to both sides. John Podesta made the system on the DNC side vulnerable when he tapped on some clickbait and allowed them to get into the DNC servers easier because he was stupid and the DNC servers were not as well protected as the RNC servers apparently. The Russians tried to get into both. That's their jobs, and everyone does it. North Korea, China, Russia.
2015, they make what I think is the first approach that we know. So Felix Sater, Russian-American, former business partner with Donald Trump, approaches Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, and says, let's get Donald Trump to build a Trump Tower in Moscow.
Right.
We can engineer this, get Trump and Putin together, and make our boy president. So that's the first known approach. So the hacking...
Really? Where's the evidence and by whom? Has anybody here seen an article about that? Or has anybody seen anything about that in the New York Times? Because if it were, the New York Times would be, and the Washington Post and the LA Times would all be trumpeting that from now until doomsday. You would be hearing that every week. Every week. It would never be stopping because that's what leftists do these days.
Things going on, and you start to see these different...
Where's the evidence, Eric?
...approaches, and there's two different types of approaches. There's the approaches to get Trump and Putin together, which is unusual because he's a candidate, and then there's the approaches to preview the hacked emails that the Russians have against Hillary Clinton. So you see that offer made to George Papadopoulos while he's over in London by a Russian.
Omission again. Omission, lies of omission. I have the story. I can't think of the guy's name, but he's a British guy who solicited Papadopoulos and who solicited Carter Page and planted the thought in these guys' heads. So it's a trap. It's a setup. It's a trap. It's a setup. It's a trap. It's a setup.
Lied about that. He pled guilty to lying, admitted that it occurred. You see the approach with the June 9th.
That's a crime of process. Not one alleged crime, that Mueller has indicted or prosecuted or acquired a guilty plea on has anything to do directly with Russia, Trump, and hacking the election. Not one. Everything that Mueller has accomplished is nothing but, as I continue to say until I see evidence otherwise, nothing but a crime of process. A crime of process. And the FBI agents, by the way, who interviewed Flynn, came back away from the interview thinking he didn't lie. Yet they prosecuted him anyway. Because there is a political agenda.
Family. Russian developers close to Putin, trying to get Trump and Putin together. They offer, dirt on Hillary Clinton. That June 9th meeting, they move heaven and earth, Donald Trump Jr. and Paul Manafort and Kushner, to take the meeting, right? Donald Trump, days before the meeting occurred, once his son knows the meeting's happening, tells the world new information's coming out about Hillary Clinton. Days after the meeting, Julian Assange tells the world that Hillary Clinton emails are coming out. Then you start to see the hacked emails released. What does candidate Trump do? He doesn't disavow them. No one in the family says we had taken these meetings. Instead, he invites the Russians on a public stage to hack more.
So I think you're talking about his
made an
press
invitation.
He did.
Okay, now if you thought this was loony, tune in. If you want to hear tinfoil crackling right now, tune in.
I think we have that. This is July 27th, 2016, at the Doral National, which he owns in Doral, Florida. Here's the clip you're talking about.
Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that happens.
Two questions.
He was rewarded.
One, do we have the 30,000 emails? Did Russia ever come up with those?
We're still...
No. We haven't. No, oddly enough, we haven't.
They didn't, actually. But,
you know that for a fact?
Well, we haven't seen them.
Yeah. Let's let the Mueller investigation continue.
Okay, maybe Mueller's in contact with the Russians, but Trump didn't come up with those from the Russians, so that didn't happen. But let me ask you this. If Trump was going to
There's still an attempt there, right?
Okay, but...
You can...
An attempt? That's Donald Trump. That's how he works. That's part of how he works. Do you think he actually can call up Putin and say, give me everything you've got? And by the way, I'll just kill some of your citizens just to make things look good. Vlad?
Attempt to do something and fail, and it could still be a crime.
But would you do... I hate to inject common sense into this.
Would you do it in broad daylight?
To make secret contact with Russia, your handlers back in Moscow, wouldn't you dial them up in the shortwave in the basement? Would you really send a coded message in the middle of a joke at a press conference?
I'm not saying he's the smartest guy in the world, Tucker. Never accused him of that.
Listen, that's what Eric Swalwell thinks. Trump sent a coded message in the clear to Putin in the guise of a joke. I shit thee not.
It's the smoking gun right there.
It's part of the evidence. An invitation made by the candidate.
It's part of the evidence.
At a press
telling him it's okay.
Okay, but
he's not
that
the
was
smartest
on
guy in the world.
television. Okay, so he's both a secret agent for Putin, but he's so dumb that he spills his secrets at a press conference.
You want to hear collusion? Let's jump to this right now. I've got collusion, and I'm gonna have to crank this bad boy up so you can hear it. But you want to have evidence of collusion? Anybody remember this from Obama and Medvedev? I think I do.
My last election, after my election, I have more flexibility.
This is my last election, Obama says to Medvedev, the current, at that time, Russian president.
I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and understand what
I understand. I will send this information to Vladimir. You want collusion? There it was. Captured on audio right there.
Conference on TV.
The latter.
Okay.
So he makes an invitation. He doesn't disavow what they're doing.
But
so what do? They start to do more.
Give him the 30,000 emails.
They start to do more. They start to hack more. And so
you heard the people laughing at the end of what he said, right?
He's broadcasting. He's committing, the offer in broad.
Listen to this. I'm going to back this up a little bit because when he says this, he is perfectly serious when he says this. Listen to what passes for clear thinking in Eric Swalwell's world.
Laughing at the end of what he said, right?
he's broadcasting. He's committing, the offer in broad daylight.
To Russia,
sure.
why wouldn't he just act through all the many Russian agents?
So
and
let me continue. So at the same time,
but those are fair questions, right? It's a little confusing.
Completely fair questions.
So what's the answer?
But there's no. Hey,
why would he do it in public?
Why did he admit to Lester Holt obstruction of justice in public? There's no who could be so stupid they commit the crime in public exception. He did it.
Has any secret agent ever broadcast a message at a press conference to his handlers ever?
Has any businessman ever been elected president? Sometimes you're the first person to do it. So Tucker, again, he made the invitation.
It's a secret message. Shh, quiet. It's a secret message.
Okay.
Makes the invitation in public, right? Then you start to see during the summer of 2016, we have an email that is titled Kremlin Connection. An offer made to Paul Erickson of the campaign to connect Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin again.
Okay.
Kremlin connection, right? So again, more and more
Did they connect?
offers.
Do we have evidence that he talked to Putin?
I don't believe that they connected. But
so
again,
where's the smoke? Where's the evidence?
Where's the... Just what Tucker Carlson said. Where's the evidence? Where's the smoking gun? I just played you a cut. A smoking gun with regard to collusion. The linkage, I will be much more conciliatory to Vladimir Putin, he tells Medvedev, because Medvedev, though he's president at the time, is only an intermediary. Everyone knows that Vladimir Putin, even in 2008, runs Russia. And this is Obama saying specifically, when I win this next election, I will be more conciliatory towards Russia. And he was.
I know all this stuff. Where's the evidence?
Well, first, Tucker, don't confuse evidence with a conclusion. Evidence gives the FBI and the Department of Justice.
Smoking gun? Look, I've been going through this for a year. Look, I watch Rachel Maddow. I get it. I know there are a lot of Russians and Russian people in emails, but where's the actual proof that something happened after more than a year of this?
Well, I'm not the prosecutor. I don't have subpoena power. Bob Mueller does. All I'm saying is...
Basically what he's saying is Tucker Carlson threw down the gauntlet, said, bring me the evidence, and Eric Swalwell in retort is saying then, tinfoil hat wearing, and no, I don't have any fucking evidence.
High-level security clearance, and you're on the Intel committee, so presumably you'd have more than a clip of him at a
I'm only giving you the
conference.
evidence that I've seen in an unclassified manner. So I'm telling you that all of that warrants looking at whether we could prove beyond a reasonable doubt conspiracy to defraud the United States. Those are the
Aren't we
crimes.
working on that? I mean, we've been working on that for a long time.
Well, not with the obstruction that we continue to see. The continued undermining, the trying to...
So that's it? That's all you got?
No.
Okay, so what's the part I haven't heard? Tell me. I'm waiting. Because I want to... Look, if he's...
It's right in front of your nose, Tucker.
Tell me what...
It's right in front of your nose, Tucker. It's right in front of you. Where?
It's right in front of your
nose. Is it another press conference he gave
with
with more secret messages, or tell me?
Again, Tucker... When we look back on this in 25 years, we're going to be amazed at how much of it was right in front of us. So, they're hacking. There's
we're
approaches.
all speaking Chinese.
Right, but what we're going to find, however, is that all the collusion, and that's what's been proven to date, is on behalf of Democrats, the leftists, and the American media, maggots, not anybody else.
Good point. And we're like, people thought Russia was the threat. Isn't that weird?
There's approaches. They never turn down any of the approaches. The candidate makes an invitation in broad daylight, as you said. They continue to try and arrange meetings through the summer. And then you start to have what I call, if there's a quid pro quo, there has to be a quo, right? If there's a transaction that's taking place, you start to, of course, there's the candidate's positive, favorable statements about Putin, even if those are just, as you said, so we have a better relationship with Russia. How do you explain the national security advisor, the incoming national security advisor, Michael Flynn, who had been over to Russia just a year before, telling the Russians, don't worry about the Barack Obama imposed sanctions? How do you explain that? That's
I would explain it this way.
How do you explain bringing the Russians into the Oval Office, giving them national security secrets?
Here's what I would hope, that we would stop with the sanctions on Russia. I think they're counterproductive. But the Trump administration has done just the opposite. So we sent Javelin missiles to the Ukrainian rebels.
Don't confuse little Eric with facts.
We've opened up domestic oil production here, which hurts them, and gas production. We have killed over 200 Russians in Syria. We have bombed...
Oh, damn, stop with the facts.
The government of Bashar al-Assad, which is their closest ally outside their borders. In what sense has he been pro-Russia as president? And I say this with sadness, because I don't think he should be doing any of that.
Yeah, well, all the favorable things that he says. Bringing Russians into the Oval Office, kicking out Americans, letting Russian press...
Can we just be reality-based really quick?
And failure to impose the congressionally passed sanctions. You know how hard we had to work, the public sentiment that was...
What about killing the 200 Russians? He's been
Did he kill them?
He sent the U.S. military...
I don't...
Did you hear Eric Swalwell say, did he kill him? Meaning Trump? I'm not kidding. That's how insane these people He is.
I think you're giving him too much credit.
Well, I don't know. Look, I'm not flacking for Trump. I don't think he should have done it. I criticized him on the show.
You're absolutely right.
I'm just telling you, he's killed 200 Russians. Obama did not do that. He sent missiles to Ukrainian rebels. Obama did not do that. He is competing in energy with them in a way Obama never tried. Why is he more pro-Russian than Obama was?
Don't confuse what he has to do because the public sentiment is so high and watching him. Again,
That's right. It's all a ploy. Just remember that Trump is nothing but Putin's poodle.
Give him too much credit. You're giving him too much credit.
I'm not giving him credit. I'm criticizing him. I don't think he should be doing any of it. I'm just saying this whole thing is insane. That's what I'm saying.
And then you have all the consciousness of guilt evidence, right? All of the lies that have been told, whether it was about the June 9th meeting, the Russian adoption excuse, and then moving it to what it was really about. So that's consciousness of guilt. A lot of times the way someone acts after an investigation is launched can tell you what they were doing.
I guess. I'm not, you know what? I'm not.
Facts. Bring me the facts. Eric, bring me the facts. Robert Mueller, bring me the facts. Where are the facts? I don't want crimes of process. I want crimes against Donald Trump. If Donald John Trump colluded or conspired with Vladimir Putin to win the election, then I want to see the evidence. If I am presented with the evidence, I may change my mind.
So again, don't confuse evidence with a conclusion. There's more than enough evidence to continue and find out how close were these ties. Did the willingness and eagerness add up?
I was hoping for something.
And that's it. But again, this is Eric Swalwell saying Trump's positive, he's committing the offer in broad daylight. Trump's positive statements about Russia and Putin. And again, I play this tape. Who is colluding with whom? It was Barack Hussein Obama.
My last election, after my election, I have more flexibility.
After my election, I will have more flexibility. And he's telling this to Russia. I will be more flexible, meaning more conciliatory to you. This is called direct evidence on tape. This is evidence.
I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir.
I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir. What more do you need than that? Now, while we're on it, we're going to talk about another one of my favorite guys. I hope I have enough time in the rest of the show to do this. I'm going to talk about the dangerous treachery of John Brennan. Now, John Owen Brennan was CIA director under Barack Hussein Obama from March of 2013 to January 20th of 2017, President Trump's inauguration day. He's currently registered as an independent. We'll get to that later. He was director of the National Counterterrorism Center, NCC, from August of 2004 to August 2005 under Bush. He was Homeland Security Advisor from January of 2009 to March of 2013 under Obama. He hit the big leagues thereafter. That John Brennan. Now, to this point, it's my opinion that John Brennan is complicit with many, many yet unindicted co-conspirators in an attempt to unlawfully bring down a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and subsequently an actual sitting president by means of surveillance, illegal warrant applications, intimidation, force, threats both implied and direct, purposeful ignorance, purposeful avoidance of one's primary job, as well as the utilization of an infrastructure and an architecture manifesting itself in and around the District of Columbia in an absolutely unprecedented manner, using technology as a power bludgeon only dreamed of before this. The forces, the agendas, the biases, the agencies, both overt and covert, budgets, network, both social and otherwise, historically embedded power structures, otherwise now known as the deep state, people whose incomes and retirements absolutely depend on the status quo to never change or be disturbed by even one molecule. These forces arrayed against one person, Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, is absolutely unprecedented in American history. In my opinion, John Brennan is a major part of that. Though They fully expected to win. Leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, complicit, all of them, were willing to take no chances. Their goal was to shatter Republicans into bitter little shards. However, they, like others, were gobsmacked when, out of all 7, if you remember this, out of all 17 candidates, Donald Trump emerged with his sprayed-on orange glow from the political ruins. And that occurred at the veritable last second, as you recall. Yet they knew plans were already in place, just in case. Plans they hadn't counted on utilizing. Then, actual pants-shitting hysteria, PSH, as I call it, commenced late on November 8th, early November 9th. One reason John Podesta emerged on the stage afterwards: Hillary was breaking mirrors and knocking down Long Island iced teas in the back at a prodigious rate. That's why you saw Johnny Baby instead of Hillary. So, luckily for Democrats, many elements were already in place, buttressed by any number of monolithic institutions already sympathetic to leftists, like, well, leftists themselves, Democrats, and the equally complicit American media maggots, in concert with essentially the rest of so-called upper education, official upper education. So subsequent riots then sadly proved that any number of law enforcement agencies, like the City of Berkeley Police Department, the San Jose Police Department, the University of California at Berkeley Police Department, and the Sacramento Police Department, were on the side of literal anarchists. And that was good to know, good to find out. They actually came out in the clear, and they made themselves obvious. But what of John Brennan? Let's get rolling with some information heretofore buried by people who apparently are big fans of cat boxes and kitty litter. One of my favorite, by the way, kitty litter, I have to tell you, is one of my absolute favorite California strippers from the 1970s. Were you aware, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that John Brennan voted communist in 1978? What? You didn't? You weren't aware of that? Well, you do now. And with that, we're going to be back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show, also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny, and we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights.
SHAT.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
Yep. SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Hey, BZ. So the plan's working. You got rid of Sacco. Sean is now stepping away.
I never even saw him.
And I know, and insidious. Insidious. You know, we talked about this for, for the last 3 years. And finally coming to fruition.
You know I'm still in the room, right?
It's almost like he's here still. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's kind of.
It's amazing. It's kind of
at you.
It's kind of eerie.
Kind of poltergeist.
Like a poltergeisty thing.
Yeah, sackheads against tyranny.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back live and direct from the SHR Media sumptuous and palatial studios, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. You're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. You can also watch us live currently on Facebook, SHR Media Facebook, and SHR Media YouTube channel. I was talking about John Brennan, and I left off with, did you, and I need to clarify this, were you aware that John Brennan voted communist in, I said 1978, but that's factually incorrect. It was actually 1976. Barack Obama's CIA chief, John Brennan, told the annual legislative conference of the Congressional Black Caucus on September 15th of 2016 in Washington, D.C., that when he applied in 1980 to join the CIA, he admitted to them that in the 1976 presidential election, when Jimmy Carter was running against Gerald Ford, Brennan had voted instead for the candidate of the U.S. Communist Party, Gus Hall, and that he was then greatly relieved to find that this information didn't cause rejection of his CIA application. Hey, that was under Carter. Imagine that. Carter said, hey, communists, come one, come all, infiltrate our CIA, and they did. This had happened 11 years before the 1991 end of the Cold War, which actually ended only on the Russian side, but not on the U.S. NATO side, where it continues without stop and has accelerated since 2014, now finally being joined by both sides. So, greatly relieved indeed. But, hell, he had leftists on his side. Like I said, Jimmy Carter. Let this begin to settle into your cranial vault for a moment or three, okay? We already know the scruples and ethics of John Brennan are beyond reproach, right? Okay, because on November 29th, 2015, Andrew Emmett of Activist Post bannered Obama accepted $1.3 million in gifts last year from a country who beheads more people than ISIS, and he reported and documented that, although the State Department listed several gifts to CIA Director John Brennan and multiple anonymous agency employees. The donors' names have been redacted because such information could adversely affect United States intelligence sources or methods. Besides receiving a $10,000 Omega men's watch, Brennan was also given a $7,500 decorative rug, and the Saudi king gave President Obama and his family roughly $1.35 million in gifts last year. Okay, so let's go back. Also, again, I should care to remind everybody about John Brennan. Let's go back a bit to 2013. John Brennan was sworn in as CIA director using the Constitution, which lacked the Bill of Rights. And initially you may be saying to yourself, What the fuck difference does that make? According to the White House, John Brennan was sworn in as CIA director on a first draft of the Constitution, including notations from George Washington dating to 1787. That means when Brennan vowed to protect and defend the Constitution, he was swearing on one that did not include the First, Fourth, Fifth, or Sixth Amendments, or any of the other amendments now included in our Constitution. The Bill of Rights did not become part of the Constitution until 1794, 4 years after the Constitution that Brennan took his oath on. Oh, BZ, you're making a big deal out of that. Why, this isn't important. Okay, this is important for a very good reason. Swearing-in ceremonies are anticipated, scheduled, and they're not conducted at the last proverbial second. They're planned, and those promoted have any number of options available. They aren't just conjured up out of thin air. They possess a very significant meaning to the persons being sworn in, promoted, etc. When I was promoted, for example, from sergeant to deputy, I had any number of options available to include my choice of who's going to pin on my new badge. I chose my father. That was highly important to me because, frankly, my mother thought from the very beginning that I was never strong enough to be a law enforcement officer, much less be recognized by a promotion. She told me that to my face. The choice of my father was thusly, it was a really big and a very important and personal unspoken statement by me, for me. So, too, did John Brennan make an unspoken statement, and to my way of thinking, in his mind, he justified and justifies now what he did or did not do from that point onward via his oath of office. As far as he's concerned, he was excused. You just had to see it and understand it. He was hiding in plain sight. Truth. Next, from BuzzFeed.com. Congress doesn't really care that the CIA chief once voted communist. The quote is, "I'm thinking I'm going to let that one go." CIA Director John Brennan can breathe a sigh of relief. 40 years ago, after casting his ballot, Congress let him off the hook for voting for the Communist Party during the height of the Cold War. Let that sink in. He voted for the Communist Party during the height of the Cold War. Brennan copped that in that little noticed remarks at the Congressional Black Caucus's annual conference, as we indicated, and then Republicans and Democrats both responded. I think Brennan's the only one who can comment on that, said Senator Richard Burr, Republican, the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And I'm really not interested in how the CIA director voted decades ago, said Ron Wyden, Democrat, Oregon. I continue to be troubled about his skewed and distorted views about the separation of powers, Wyden added. Now, we knew already that Brennan was a leftist hack when he said that America will triumph over you in response to Andrew McCabe being fired. Here's a quote. This is from, because John Brennan, he's on Twitter just like Trump. Here's a quote from John O. Brennan. "When the full extent of your venality, moral turpitude, and political corruption," sounds like he's describing himself, "becomes known, you will take your rightful place as a disgraced demagogue in the dustbin of history. You may scapegoat Andy McCabe, but you will not destroy America. America will triumph over you." The problem with that is that the U.S. government Inspector General made that recommendation for termination, not Donald John Trump. Something unexplained and left dead on the ground by the American media maggots, purposefully, of course. So, you got to give the governor a harumph. We got to protect our phony baloney jobs on that one.
About this immediately. Harumph. I didn't get a harumph out of that guy. Give the governor a harumph. You watch your ass.
So the 7 deadly sins of John Brennan. This came from an article back in 2012. What Obama's high priest of targeted killings doesn't want you to know. Last week, I introduced readers to John Brennan, the U.S. president's closest advisor for intelligence and counterterrorism issues. He wasn't yet CIA director. Although Americans know little about Brennan, he plays an essential role in shaping and implementing the expansive, unprecedented targeted killing of suspected terrorists and militants. He is, the New York Times reported, citing administration officials, the priest whose blessing has become indispensable to Obama. Now that's a leftist rag saying that about John Brennan. Then, that was then. This is now. He is, the New York Times reported, the priest whose blessing has become indispensable after Brennan lost out on the nomination for CIA director. He became the White House's Homeland Security Advisor and Deputy National Advisor for Counterterrorism. As Michael Hayden, the holdover CIA director, and Leon Panetta was confirmed, once observed, John Brennan's the actual National Intelligence Director. Imagine that. Under Obama, power only exists when there is a vacuum, and it gets filled. Now, by the way, in a little tete-a-tete between George Stephanopoulos and John Brennan, it went like this. Stephanopoulos, do you stand by the statement that you've made in the past that as effective as they have been, they have not killed a single civilian? That seems hard to believe. Brennan, what I said was that over a period of time before my public remarks that we had no information about a single civilian, not one non-combatant being killed. Unfortunately, in war, there are casualties, including among them civilian population. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to take a life to save lives. This was in George Stephanopoulos this week with George Stephanopoulos in 2012. So isn't it odd that the Washington Post, whose motto, democracy dies in darkness, that actually ought to be changed to democracy dies in D.C., the Washington Post wrote in 2014 this article, yet now holds Brennan up as an anti-Trump lion. And the article they wrote had a headline saying, Obama should fire Brennan. In March, on the Council of Foreign Relations, CIA Director John Brennan was asked by NBC's Andrea Mitchell whether the CIA had illegally accessed Senate Intelligence Committee staff computers. Oh, do you remember this? Is this starting to come back to you now? Illegally, accessed Senate Intelligence Committee staff computers to thwart an investigation by the committee into the agency's past interrogation techniques. The accusation has been made earlier by Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat of California, who said the CIA had violated the separation of powers principles embodied in the United States Constitution. As far as the allegations of CIA hacking into, Senate computers, nothing could be further from the truth, Brennan said. I mean, we wouldn't do that. I mean, that's just beyond the scope of reasons in terms of what we would do. And, when the facts come out on this, I think a lot of people who are claiming that there has been this tremendous sort of spying and monitoring and hacking, they will be proved wrong.
In another major story tonight, the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee has accused the CIA of spying on Congress in an astonishing speech. Democrat Dianne Feinstein claimed that in 2010, the agency hacked into the computers of her committee, which oversees the CIA. Wyatt Andrews has our story.
From California is recognized.
The speech was both a surprise and unprecedented. Dianne Feinstein, the chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, says the CIA spied on the committee's computers and deleted important documents. She said it happened during an investigation.
Okay, so they not only spied, but they removed shit as well.
Into the CIA's controversial interrogation techniques, including waterboarding used against suspected terrorists. By snooping on Congress, Feinstein said the CIA crossed the line.
I have grave concerns that the CIA's search...
Who was the CIA at this time? John Brennan.
...may well have violated the separation of powers principles embodied in the United States Constitution.
The director of the CIA, John Brennan, denied that the agency did anything wrong.
As far as the allegations of, CIA hacking into, Senate computers, nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, we wouldn't do that.
But Director Brennan
we wouldn't do that.
Himself disclosed in January that the agency had conducted a search of the committee computers.
Oh, wait.
Here's the issue. For years, the CIA and Intelligence Committee have shared computers at a secret site in Northern Virginia where committee investigators could access classified documents. Last year, the CIA complained that Senate staffers had hacked the system and copied a document considered off-limits. That document, called the Internal Panetta Review because it went straight to former Director Leon Panetta, is said to be highly critical of the CIA's interrogation program. Senator Feinstein denied there was any hacking and said the committee broke none of the rules.
The document was made available to the staff at the off-site facility, and it was located using a CIA-provided search tool.
This clash now leaves both sides, the Senate and the CIA, accusing each other of possible criminal violations of computer law. Both sides have lodged complaints at the Justice Department, but Scott, in the past, disputes like this have gone all the way to the president.
Wyatt Andrews on Capitol Hill for us tonight. Wyatt, thank you very much.
And, of course, what happened? Did anything happen because of that? Did you see, like, Dianne Feinstein get clapped into orange because she lied? Did you see John Brennan get clapped into orange because he lied as well? No, of course, you didn't see any of that. By anyone's measure, this would mean John Brennan lied baldly and nakedly in front of leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots as he was working against Democrats. Yet he is now somehow, oddly, weirdly lionized by Democrats. How does one reconcile these conflicts? Wait. I know, because Donald John Trump, the 45th president of the United States of America, is instead sitting where Hillary Rodham Clinton should rightly be sitting. So John Brennan was called upon to resign, and of course he did.
Central Intelligence Agency Director John Brennan is facing calls to resign after admitting CIA officials spied on a Senate panel probing the agency's torture and rendition program. The allegation surfaced in March when members of the Senate Intelligence Committee openly accused CIA officials of illegally monitoring their staffers' computers. At the time, John Brennan denied the spying allegations and said those who make them will be proved wrong.
Right.
The allegations of CIA hacking into Senate computers, nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
I mean, we wouldn't do that.
No,
that's just beyond the scope of reason in terms of what we would do. When the facts come out on this, I think a lot of people who are claiming that there has been this tremendous sort of spying and monitoring and hacking will be proved wrong.
Well, CIA Director John Brennan...
Well, wait a minute. Where there's smoke, there's fire. That applies to Donald Trump. Why didn't that apply to John Brennan? Hacking?
...reversed his stance this week after an internal CIA inquiry found the spying...
Wait. Now, Johnny is reversing what he said before, and that's immured on, I just played it for you twice. Now he's admitting he lied. He's a naked, bald liar.
...indeed took place with the involvement of 10 agency employees. Brennan apologized to lawmakers in a briefing earlier this week. The CIA is also...
So that's why he's not wearing orange. God, if only I knew. All you had to do was say you're sorry.
...retracted counter-allegations that Senate staffers illegally removed classified information from a top-secret facility. The White House is standing by Brennan, citing President Obama's, quote, great confidence in his leadership. But at least 2 members of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Democrats Mark Udall of Colorado and Martin Heinrich of New Mexico, are calling for Brennan's resignation. We're joined by the reporter who first broke the news of the CIA's admission to spying on Senate computers, Jonathan Landay, senior national security and intelligence correspondent for McClatchy Newspapers, also in Washington, D.C.
Oh, McClatchy Newspapers, where I used to work during the 70s. I worked directly for KFBK. My check said McClatchy, and I used to work in journalism, as it was said. I used to be a stringer for photographer for the Sacramento Bee, and I used to work for KFBK Radio, and also I did some stuff for KOVR. That's McClatchy. Wow. Good times.
DC. Thanks for being with us. Talk about this revelation that you just exposed.
So after all of this, what had been this behind-the-scenes battle, unprecedented battle between the CIA and its Senate overseers, apparently John Brennan asked his Inspector General, David Buckley, to look into Senator Feinstein's allegations that the CIA had, in fact, without authorization and in breach of an agreement with the Senate staff, had intruded into a database that was for the use by the Senate staff only. Apparently, David Buckley came back with his findings that a number of CIA IT specialists, 3 IT specialists, 5 CIA officers, and I believe it was 2 attorneys, had in fact either without permission breached the Senate committee's database or caused it to be breached. We also find out that the complaint that the CIA referred to the Justice Department containing allegations that the Senate staff had, without permission, without authorization, removed top-secret classified documents from the secret CIA facility in which they were doing their work, was apparently made with incorrect information. That it was
incorrect information. Imagine that. Now, anyone beginning to identify what I would call a trend or a pattern
And on
here.
the same day that we have this guilty plea, new questions raised about John Brennan's role in this whole thing. On May 23rd of last year, long after the election.
Now we're moving up to the dossier. Now we're moving up to 2016. Let's let her rip, Martha McCallum.
He claimed that he didn't know who had paid for the dossier, who asked for it. Watch.
Director Brennan, do you know who commissioned the Steele dossier?
I don't.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings, applications, petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
Lie.
No awareness. Here now, Fred Fleitz, former CIA analyst and current senior vice president at the Center for Security Policy. Fred, good to see you this evening.
Good to be here.
Let me draw your attention to this from an exclusive report in Real Clear Investigations. It says several Capitol Hill sources say Brennan, a fiercely loyal Obama appointee, talked up the dossier to Democratic leaders as well as the press during the campaign. So that was well before the statement that we just saw. They also said that he fed allegations about Trump-Russia contacts directly to the FBI while pressuring the Bureau to conduct an investigation of several Trump campaign figures starting in December of 2016.
Right, because under the charter, you see, the CIA can't be involved in anything domestically except when they are, of course.
So you think that he is very central to this whole thing?
I do. I think he's a missing link. And I got to tell you, given his hostility towards Mr. Trump, inconsistencies and contradictions.
And as being a communist and not forswearing to the Bill of Rights at all.
In his statements, I think there's a lot that has to be looked into here. He said he did not see the Steele dossier until late 2016, but learned snippets about it in mid-2016 while he was promoting the story. He also said that the dossier did not affect CIA analysis in 2016 or major intelligence community analysis in early 2017, but the dossier was the principal piece of information used for the FISA warrant application to spy on Carter Page in October 2016. So, Martha, this means that
listen to this, the timeline.
CIA, according to Brennan, either didn't know about or didn't have the dossier, which is impossible to believe, or the CIA thought the dossier wasn't reliable. There's a lot that has to be looked into here.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to note, Paul Sperry, investigative journalist, wrote about this today. He said the dossier makes the same claims and has sort of the same language in it as the Obama ICA, their intelligence community assessment. It says that Putin personally ordered the cyber attacks, that the leaked embarrassing emails were to bolster Trump as part of a, quote, aggressive Trump support operation. So you have the exact same language in both the official Obama intel assessment and the dossier. Does that seem odd to you?
Well, in terms of full disclosure, I was interviewed by Mr. Sperry for this article. This intelligence community assessment that came out in early January 2017 was very, very strange. It was only
very strange. How would that be, sir?
Only written by 3 intelligence agencies. It wasn't vetted with the majority of agencies, including the Defense Intelligence Agency and Homeland Security. And it was written by a small group of hand-picked analysts. Now, a committee source, a source with the House Intelligence Committee told me...
Hand-picked? No, say not so. Are you implicating that hand-picked, like perhaps the attorneys, all Democrats who are working with Robert Mueller, like that?
They're looking at every word of this ICA, and they're trying to find out how were these hand-picked analysts picked. Because as a former CIA analyst, I can tell you that's not the way it's done.
So in that vein, why were we told by James Clapper and others that 17, the idea was that everyone across the board in the intel community...
Do you remember this? Do you remember this lie? Everybody agreed.
17 agencies all agreed that there was obvious meddling by the Russians in our election.
If you parse exactly what he said, he admitted it was written by the handpicked analysts. That actually came from Clapper, and he named the agencies they came from. He's tried to say it reflects the views of the entire community, but I've discussed this on Fox before. If you look at the cover page of this assessment, it lacks a key caveat that this is an intelligence community coordinated product. You can look at other ones on the web, and that caveat is there. This one doesn't say that because it was only written and cleared by 3 agencies.
Stop! Not 17. 3 agencies. Lie! Clapper. Lie! Brennan.
One of which was CIA under Brennan's leadership.
We know that Devin Nunes has put a letter out to Brennan and Clapper asking them to answer questions about their understanding about the dossier and whether or not it was relied upon for the intelligence community assessment, which is a large, document that should be compiled by so many of our agencies, as you say, and it turns out that it was just done by a handful of people. So there's
just done by a handful of people. There's so much more yet to tell. So much, incredibly much more. I'm going to be back next Thursday. I'm also going to be back tomorrow night, and that will be with, I hope now Sackhead's Clint isn't going to be here tomorrow night. I'd forgotten about that. He says he's going to call in, so I suppose we'll just have to wait and see if, in fact, Sackhead's Clint calls in.
Monsieur has been locked!
And hasn't this been a series of 2 special past shows by BZ in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show live and direct right here at the SHR Media Network in the sumptuous and palatial SHR Media Studios. You want to contact me? You can find me at Twitter, on Twitter at bzep, or my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net. Promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunkworks and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. And also by Pratt & Whitney Engines, Thrust You Can Trust. And also by the Allahu Snack Bar, a little bit of Mohammed in every bite. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour because I so fucking want it. And thank you so kindly for listening live. Thanks to Dan Butcher for putting up with this bullshit with the phones. Thank you for being involved in the chat room. God bless, take care. Tomorrow night, Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy.
Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.